Today's panel debate is going old school, as we'll have someone arguing the affirmative and someone arguing the negative of the statement, "Be it resolved that ebook design is insignificant." Hold on. There'll be time at the end for you to share your own opinions. To keep our debaters in check, we welcome our moderator, Derrick Schultz. Derrick is a designer, developer, and artist working at the intersection of technology and storytelling. He is currently lead product designer at the New York Times. Prior to his work at the Times, Derrick was a designer and developer at Atavist Books, and Open Air Publishing, where he created genre-bending and award-winning digital reading products. He is a fan of brutalist 1970s architecture, which you can see in abundance as you walk around this area of Toronto, and is renowned for his collection of cat-themed sweaters and T-shirts.
First off, we're going to do a poll. So before I even introduce these lovely debaters to you, in case that would, smear your decision making, we have a poll that's now on ebookcraft on the Twitter account. So you can go in and you can vote for what you think. Does ebook design matter? And then we're going to let these two fine debaters try to change your mind. Okay, so arguing that ebook design does in fact not matter, we have Amos. India is a content producer focusing on ebook and website coding, content strategy, and design. So I don't know how this is going to work for you. You're basically saying you need to be out of a job?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough. She has been an ebook developer, managing editor, art director, book designer, compositor, copy editor, proofreader, webmaster, arts administrator, and bookseller. So on the side that ebook design does matter, we have Nick Barreto. Nick is the co-founder and technology director at Canelo Digital Publishing, a new digital publisher which combines the best of book publishing with new digital technology. They produce high-quality ebooks, apps, and web products with an in-house digital production team and cutting-edge marketing. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I, of course, don't even know if I have a coin on me, but I'll find one. So we're going to flip a coin to see who goes first. Each debater will then have 5 minutes to make one of their points. And then there will be a 1-minute rebuttal. And then there will be a cage match. And then you, the people, will decide who is the winner. We'll do another poll. And if I don't like the answer, I will change the decision. And I will pick who wins. And then we're going to have some time for some QA. All right, so I have a Canadian dollar here, which is, okay, there's a head side. Okay, we're good. We're good. I promised when I came here that I was going to be that rude American, and I'm really living up to that. All right, so India, to my right, I'm going to let you pick heads or tails.
Heads.
Okay. It is tails, so Nick is going to go first.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that I'm not going to be using any images or any sort of visual aids, which is actually just a sneaky way of proving my point if India wins, because she is using lots of visual aids. So in the end, if you do choose that decide that she's smarter, smarter? Sorry, no, right. Sorry, yeah. But yeah. Why does ebook design matter? Well, because of course it matters. Good ebook design, I think the first thing to do is to decide, define what we mean by ebook design. Because we're not just talking about the CSS that's attached to the HTML of the book. Yeah, that's styling. Design is what the styling communicates. Good design means it communicates meaning and semantics. Good design tells you what's important on a page. It makes it more comprehensible, more understandable. Apple calls their design guide the human interface guidelines. That's what good design is. It makes things understandable for people. Charles yesterday gave a really good talk about typography, and I really wish he could just come up here and say all of it again, because it makes all of my points for me. And he's definitely a lot more eloquent and persuasive. But you know, I thought it was really interesting what he was saying with typography, that there is an optimum number of characters in a line, which aids, you know, when you hit that line length, people remember what they've read better. That's good design. John earlier was talking about user experience, and that's creating good design. Design is thoughtful. It's something that, will create, make that content more useful.
readers, in particular, my first point, hate your ebook design. As we heard earlier today, you are not the user, and design blindness is real. And if we could have some kind of accessibility treatment for design blindness, that would be great, but so far we don't. I love fonts. Fonts are great. We all love fonts. Fonts are, they're the happiness in the world. But everybody hates your embedded fonts. They add file weight. They override the user's preferences. The users are just going to throw them out. Don't bother. They increase the cost of downloads. Everybody hates your line length constraints. You don't know why I want to fit 30 words on a line in my e-reader. Maybe it's because I want to select a passage in my e-reader so I can highlight it, and I can't select over 2 pages, so I need to fit as much text on the page as possible for that moment while I'm highlighting. You don't know. Don't tell me what to do. And everybody hates your drop caps. If you were watching Twitter earlier today, yes, you can make them. No, they will not look consistent anywhere. Just don't bother. And everybody hates your syncs. The moderator, he believes me. He knows that if you put...
You can move on.
If you put a
You can move on.
in your ebook, customers will complain. They thought that the paragraph was missing there, and they all complained. So it might work in print, but it doesn't work in ebooks. I personally detest your CSS. And I just wish you'd stop, because I'm tired of having to open up your books, strip off the DRM, and take out all the CSS so that I can read them.
As much as you want to say that people don't like those things, those are user preferences. User preferences are still design. It matters. The fact that people have such strong opinions about it means that it matters. The issue with people complaining about really long space in between the start of the paragraph, that's just user expectations that are different. It's only going to change over time, especially as design gets better. But fundamentally, debate isn't whether your design is good or not, it's whether it matters. And if it's eliciting such vitriolic responses, which it always does, it matters. Ebook design matters because it matters in everything. Given the option between a well-designed product and a haphazardly designed one, people are always going to choose the one that is better designed. What would you rather use? I mean, it's just a simple question of a better product over an inferior one. The world abounds with examples of better designed products which are more successful than their lost, thought-out competitors. It's not a mistake. Apple is the most valuable company in the world now. Why would ebooks be special? They're not special. As much as we'd like to think, we're not wonderful special snowflakes. We like looking at how lovely things appear on the web versus the way things are in ebooks. They did not start out that nice. People had to suffer through blink tags and geosites for a long time before we got to where we are today. Somebody had to make all of those great tools for the web as the web got better. That's inevitable in ebooks. We just saw a really great presentation from Dave and Sivia that shows things are moving in that direction. Maybe things don't move as fast as we would like them to, but they are getting better, and they will only continue to get better. People pay money for beautiful things. Look at the fashion industry. Look at architecture. Look at print books. Ebooks aren't different in any of those respects.
So yes, design does matter in everything, and better designed products are definitely needed. But those better designed products are not better designed ebooks. They are better designed reading systems, which I will get to in my second point. Reading systems hate your ebook design. As we heard from Joshua, for those of us who were in workshops yesterday, they hate your CSS. They're ignoring your media queries. You can put as much work as you want into creating really obsessive media queries to target every single device combination, but they're just going to get thrown out. Sorry. Reading system developers also hate, as you might imagine, your CSS. I don't know if you can read it from there, but conversation that I had with Micah, who does Bluefire Reader, pretty popular e-reader, and they just have to override it all, but it's a pain in his ass, so stop that. Some vendors are even self-hating. This is an O'Reilly book viewed in Safari Flow where one of the sidebars dropped out. So, and they were working on it. I filed a bug report, but it's how do you code around that? It's your own tool, and you're still having trouble processing your own CSS. And everybody's plotting against you to turn off your CSS. So just stop, give up now.
Reading systems are only getting better. And again, just because someone's used design badly doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, and it doesn't make it any less important. If anything, it makes it more important. I think there's a distinction between using design intelligently and carefully and using it in a way that enhances the reading experience and using it arbitrarily because you can. There's a different, yeah, thoughtful design is always going to be better than bad design. Ebook design matters because it has to matter. If design doesn't matter, then we're done with ebooks. We're good. Look, we can all pack up and go home. Let's go read Mobi 7 files that still can't handle nested lists. Seriously, call me an optimist, but things are always improving, and reading systems are always getting more sophisticated. That means a capacity for more, better design. We can't just rest on our laurels and leave things as they are. We always need to think about that beautiful future when ebooks are first-class citizens of the web, and all that CSS that allows us to create ebooks that are just as beautiful as their print counterparts. If we just stop now, well, what's the point?
Ebook design has to matter. The world does not owe you a design job. And if you find yourself with a lot of free time, you could just work on your clean, semantic, accessible code, which apparently is a really hard job because a lot of people are still not doing it. Ebook design is not really impacting your sales, except negatively, as we saw with the syncs, people complaining about your design. This is a chart from a presentation I gave 3 years ago, but I checked in with a couple of people this afternoon, and they said that basically nothing has changed. So this is from an analysis of our rework logs at F&W Media when I was a QA person there. And the things that people complain about most are typos, formatting in the sense of stuff that they couldn't access for the most part, bad links, bad paragraph breaks, like things were run together. So none of these are design, really. Missing content, images that they can't see, and bad metadata. And that, for the most part, it was typos from bad OCR. And yet, when I looked at the files that had been complained about, they did not have any noticeable decrease in their ratings on Amazon. It did not affect the ratings. And the reason for that, I was shocked, because I went on there looking for evidence that QA is important, and it's really, we must QA our files really hard and make sure that they're perfect. And that's not it. And the reason for that, which you probably can't see, is that Amazon users actually police each other. If someone downrates a book because of formatting in the Kindle edition, other users will get in the comments and say, that's not fair. You shouldn't bring down the rating on the whole book in all of its many formats just because the Kindle version sucks. So there is honor among even Amazon raters.
Well, of course design is affecting sales, but and you said it yourself, it's affecting sales negatively. That makes even more of an incentive for better design. By the way, typos are not design. Bad links are not design. Bad paragraph breaks are not design. So that's just bad work, and the design, it still matters.
All right, so before we move on to summations, I'm going to take a look at our poll that we started earlier. It looks like there are about 38 votes, which means not a lot of you are on Twitter, which is fine. That's okay. And 71% of you said ebook design does matter. 29% of you said it does not. So we're going to see if that changed after hearing India and Nick respond. But I'm going to give them one more shot to make their final points.
So just to sum up, in print, we know that people love uniform book series. They love A Book Apart books, they love Melville House, New York Review books, Rosenfeld Media, all of your O'Reilly animal books. Admit it, you've collected them just because they have cute animals on the covers. And they also love consistent ebook rendering. A lot of people are very faithful to the Kindle because everything looks shitty in the exact same way. And there are a lot of dedicated ReadMill users like myself who kept using the app long after it was disconnected from the internet and who still mourn for it and are just generally very bereft. And then there's Safari Books Online. Everything is standardized there, as we saw. That's why those CSS overrides are important. Every part of your book's design will probably annoy someone. And readers are going to override those annoyances as best they can using whatever reading system they are using to do their reading. The reading systems will override your design, obviously. Even if the user doesn't ask them to. There is not a single reading system in the world that doesn't change your styling in some way and doesn't change the presentation in some way. And you cannot possibly test for all of them. I guarantee you have not tested on half of the apps that I actually use to read in on my phone. And nobody will pay you to do it well. So, sorry. And as I said, even terrible ebook design doesn't really hurt your sales. So just don't bother.
I still feel like you're arguing towards design secretly. Saying that people love beautifully designed things, that's exactly the point. I suppose the difference is you're saying that individual design in ebooks doesn't matter, but that's not what the debate is. The debate is whether ebook design matters, and it matters. Design is good for usability, accessibility. Well, it's related to accessibility. Design matters in everything else, and we can't afford not to have good design, really, because badly designed things are going to eventually stop working. The world doesn't owe us to buy our badly designed products. We need to design beautiful products for the world so the world will want to buy them.
So I just want to know, who is the designer? Do we stop at the artist, or do we include everybody? Or, if you're a programmer, are you designing somehow? If you're an editor and you have some say over layout, is that part of design? So, where do you draw the line?
I think that's a really important question, and that's sort of what I was alluding to when I first said that, CSS is styling, it's not design. Design is a much bigger thing than that. I think, editors are designing when they're choosing what's a heading and what isn't a heading. That's, sort of semantic design, but it's definitely a part of it. And programmers are making design decisions too about where a button goes. I mean, you could argue that the Kindle is the most successful e-reader because it was a well-designed, convenient experience to buy ebooks there. It may not be a well-designed reading experience inside, but that outside experience was very, very carefully designed. So, yeah.
I agree with Nick. I think that design is happening throughout the process. There's information design, obviously. There is also interface design on the reading system. For this particular debate, we're talking about ebook design, so that's not counting the reading system for me. But yeah, I think everyone ends up doing some of it, and a lot of us end up doing it because nobody else along the chain takes responsibility for it. And also, a lot of the decisions that developers have to make are kind of subtly overriding the demands that are coming from people who don't know any better. So the editor who says, well, but it has to match the print series. It has to match it. And you're like, but that's not going to work. And so you're kind of anti-designing part of the time.
So let me ask you a question from a standards perspective. And this is sort of a follow-up on the last question. When we work on standards, we often talk about a conflict that exists between the reading system, the author, the user, blah, 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 blah. So we have all of these conflicts. So if we're talking about the conflict, what we're really fundamentally talking about is the conflict between the reading system styles and the author styles. And there actually exists a completely unsupported standard for user styles. So really what this comes down to is who should win. Mm-hmm. The user styles, the author styles, or the reading system styles. And something that we're trying to explore a little bit more in standards land is support for personalization, which is really important in accessibility. So maybe what we really need to advocate for is a personalization specification. Would that just make everybody say, shake hands and say, we all won the debate?
I would like that.
Did I just say too much?
No, there was a tweet earlier today that may not even have been in the ebookcraft context that was about, like, can we just agree to have user styles be the most important and then everything else be subject to that? Yeah. So.
I mean, also push back on that. I mean, I feel like, and maybe this is a question for you guys, at what point do user styles become potentially a way of just ignoring, like, let's say, I've seen this, I think, that someone wanted to find if there was a way to, from a user style in an e-reader, eliminate words that they didn't agree with. So, you know, I think I want to question you guys, like, how far does user enhancements, how far do we go to support what a user's behavior is, and at what point do you push back?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think user, it shouldn't be about user design, it's about user preferences, right? It's about adjusting things to make them more convenient for the reader, but not wholesale changing what's, you know, there. Readers don't know necessarily what's going to, I mean, they don't know necessarily what's the best way to consume some content. I mean, they do to some extent, but there's a reason why, you know, all of this content work is incredibly valuable when you're deciding the order that something goes in a book, if it's a textbook. You know, there's value in those decisions, and yeah, the reader can jump around if they want, but it's a fine line. I don't know where you stop, but I think preferences within a reading system do most of that work, and if it's, you know, a preference that allows for accessibility, that should be there. I don't think that there should be user-defined style sheets, though.
I think that if the user wants to define a style sheet that replaces all instances of the cloud in a book with my butt, they're allowed to do that. They do it on the web. They might as well do it in their books, too. I think it is bad practice to disrespect the readers in general, and that is what's going to lead to an increase in piracy. If you don't let people control their books so that they can read them the way they want to, that's just encouraging them to strip off the DRM and change it themselves, and then throw it up on BitTorrent or whatever is the new BitTorrent.
That's definitely true.
So if you give them control, they have less incentive to do that.
Sanders, go ahead.
Hey, so first I just wanted to say, as the production person responsible for the CSS Secrets book, sorry. There's, you know, I think it speaks to India's point that there's definitely some tension between the CSS and what the reading systems do with that CSS. And while we've tried to optimize it, you know, it's challenging even to do it for ourselves when we do a special book. Mm-hmm. but that's not my question. So my question is also directed at India, and I'm curious your thoughts about fixed layout ebooks and how to do things like children's books or comic books. Should there be no such thing as ebook design? Would you be advocating those all be reflowable?
Well, in the case of fixed layout books, it's not really ebook design.
Okay.
It is the print book design that's just being replicated in a format that is designed to accommodate vendor requirements, really. I mean, the fixed layout spec was because they wouldn't accept PDFs to some extent. I mean, that's how it originated. And I think it's moving toward accessibility now, but it's mostly not accessible still. So I would like to see a better solution for it. I don't think it's completely to be ruled out that fixed layout can be a real solution at some point, but I don't think it's there now, and I think it's just a hack, basically. But to get back to your original, it's design that's not the ebook design at that point. It's the print design that you're talking about.
Well, it's a lot like the web, right? I mean, you have position relative and position absolute, and you can set them both. I think fixed layout has a place, especially if it's content that's designed originally for fixed layout rather than just a print design that's being used. You can create some really beautiful digital products that are book-like, but not necessarily a book in the same way that you'd recognize. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for everything, right? That's the point. It all depends the form that will make the most sense for the content.
But do the constraints that you followed to make the print version of that book still apply in the digital version of that book? Maybe you need to lay it out from scratch and come up with a new fixed format that suits the medium it's going to be displayed on.
Yeah, I guess my follow-up question is just like what vehicle do the content creators have to express those aesthetics if they can't do it through design?
They can do it through design. They just have to accept that it's going to get broken. People are going to have to override it, or they're not going to be able to access the content, and they're just not going to buy it.
Okay, I want to get to Iris because you broke the rules and asked 2 questions. So Iris, go ahead.
India, you mentioned something about people aren't going to pay for things. I would say QA or something along those lines. The greater question I have is good design, can we make good design affordable? And how, if so? And if not, why?
The moderator will allow that, but that was a lot of questions in there.
I think there was some talk yesterday about having to sneak things in. Don't tell them you're working on this because they'll tell you not to do it. I think there's too much of that going on. It should be a core function to be doing smart things with ebooks. It should not be something you have to sneak past people and say, oh, we're adding value to your book. Don't tell them. So that's one thing that your question made me think of. Should design be affordable? It's affordable in other industries. It's just not affordable in publishing. Somebody's making money, but it's not production staff. And so I think it's just a matter of priorities. You can afford it if you figure out where the big hole that all the money's going into is, and maybe plug up a tiny corner of it. But if you want skilled people working on your ebooks and you want to have good results, you do have to pay them because they're not going to stay in this industry. Anyone who has the skills to use SAS can go and work as a web developer and make 3 to 4 times as much.
Why do you keep throwing me into this? Why do you keep throwing me into this?
They could go work for, a big media company.
Can I announce some winners now? Some winners and the other non-winners. Wow, okay, we still only got 38 votes. This is, all right, I'm glad that some of you are exactly the same number of votes.
How many people changed their minds based on how terrible a presenter I am?
So design still won. You did, yeah, okay. Now someone's a sore non-winner, I understand. But with 58%, and 42% said ebook design is not important. So thank you, everyone. Now it's time to drink away all of the terrible existential questions that India put into our heads. So I want to thank our moderator. I want to thank myself, the moderator. I want to thank our debaters, Nick and India. And I want to thank all of you for putting up with my slide drama. So thank you, guys.